presentation about VMware's solution. I'm going to give a demo about the Neutron and NSX support. Basically, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go do a bit of an overview about VMware on OpenStack. After that, Dimitri is going to do a comprehensive demo kind of running through a hybrid cloud where there'll be KVM and VMware hypervisors. And then if there's time, we'll have a bit of Q&A. So essentially, kind of what's VMware's philosophy on OpenStack? Basically, at the moment, we want it to be a customer choice. Throughout all of the sessions today, basically what we've seen is that there are a number of different options and opportunities in OpenStack. And essentially, we want to be able to let the customers choose, and we want to be able to provide them with solutions that can guarantee kind of a reliable service. And VMware's got the proven track record when it comes to the virtualization infrastructure and the virtualization solutions. So we'd like to be able to leverage those within the OpenStack environment. So basically what we see here is all of the gray components are the OpenStack components that are available through the common APIs today. And the blue ones is basically what VMware offers. Say, for example, there's vSphere and vCenter. That does the infrastructure as a service. There's NSX, which does networking as a service. There's vSAN, which is virtual disk storage as a service. There's vCenter, which can do the image catalog to store glance images. And basically, there are a number of cloud operating tools. So we'd basically, it's up to whoever the customer is to pick and choose whatever they'd like to be able to use. So essentially, what do we have at the moment? At the moment, we've got a VMware Nova driver where we support all of the functionality in Nova. We've got the volume storage driver from Cinder, which that essentially works kind of hand in hand with the Nova solution that we have. At the moment, we kind of in the process of posting our vSAN support, which that provides kind of the virtual SAN support that VMware is currently offering. And we're doing a number of developments within the Glance service to support VMware images. One of the things that we did within the community over the last month or so is that we added a continuous integration tool which kind of validates all of the VMware patches. What does that mean? That each time something on the VMware code is touched or changed, we run all of the infrastructure tests that are run in OpenStack. And essentially on each patch set that's got VMware code, there's something called the VMware Minesweeper, which will either give a plus or a -1. And basically, what does that +1 mean? It means that kind of all of the codes run through the VMware backend drivers. That being kind of the Nova driver, and hopefully in the future we'll be adding Cinder and the NSX. So essentially what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be giving an example, a demo of vSphere and vCenter with the NSX drivers. So I'll hand over to Dimitri.
Okay, again, the I guess that's for the recording session because I have a loud voice, so it should be fine. Okay, so instead of doing plenty of slides, the choice we made was, okay, let's do just simply a demo and then talk over the demo to show what we do. So I find that more relevant. So as Gary said, what I have in the lab, yeah, question? No. Is, okay, I have an access or simulated access to internet, and I have a basic fabric, a basic network. It's an L3. So a couple of switches, one router. So basic network, but our solution can work on any physical network. You don't have to replace anything. And you have, I have my OpenStack stuff. So on one server, of course, you can split that on multiple servers, as you know, with OpenStack. So with my Keystone, Glance, Neutron, everything, I have a couple of ESXi hypervisors running with vCenter. And I have one KVM. I could have more KVMs. I could have Zen servers. I mean, no big deal. But that's what I have in my lab. And then, so typical stuff. Then I add the NSX plugin. By the way, you may have heard about Nicira NVP plugin. So Nicira has been acquired by VMware. Now it's called NSX plugin. That's the same thing. So the NSX plugin inside Neutron, that's what I did add, plus the NSX elements, which are the controller cluster, the brain of our solution, and what we call NSX gateways, which are the elements that provide communication from logical, from the cloud, to physical, to the external world. And this works in L2 and L3. I'll show you that in the different demos. So I have this installed, okay? So typical stuff you do plus the NSX elements. And I will build in front of you, if the Wi-Fi works, cross fingers, a three-tier architecture or multi-tier architecture. So I will build logical networks called networks under OpenStack. I will plug few VMs, some on ESXi, some on KVM. I will create a logical router. Okay, so that's something you can do, by the way, you cannot do, by the way, with Nova Network. If you know OpenStack, you have multiple ways to do networking as a service, Nova Network or Neutron. So that's not available if you do Nova Network. And this logical router will be plugged to my physical world and plugged to my logical networks, okay? When I plug that to the logical networks, you can see that router is in multiple places. I call that distributed router. I'll tell you in a minute why it's cool. Okay, so let's do the demo, and hopefully the Wi-Fi works. And hopefully the screen is not too small for you guys. So I have my tenant A, I log as tenant A, okay? So I have nothing now in my OpenStack, and I log as a tenant. So as a tenant, I create my application in this cloud. So I create my first logical network.
And if that logical network can be created on the, or accessible by the KVM nodes and the ESX nodes too.
Yeah, so that logical network is for all the computes I have. So I create my first network. Okay, I create my second one. Let's do it quick. I do it manually. Of course, it can be automated. It's just to do step by step. This subnet can be used by another tenant, as it has been explained this morning. Now we can have overlapping IP address, at least with Neutron, not with Nova Network. So okay, I created this. Now let's create my router. So I will create my router. Okay. And on this router, I will plug two interfaces, one in my network one I just created, and one in my network two. And yeah, and I set the gateway, correct, with my external network. And if we look at, because now you have this in Horizon, if you look at what it looks like, my network, I have my two logical networks I just created, my router I just created in front of you that is connected to external world, and my two logical networks, okay? So I created my network so far. And now I will create quick VMs. But those VMs I will create are based on those images. Of course, I can import my own image, but what I have so far is just a small Debian that is a VMDK, so running on, it's an image for VMware. And I have another one, Ceros, which is great because it's tiny, tiny, which is a QCow, so which is running on KVM, okay? And I could have some other images for Zen servers and so on and so forth.
But you do different images for the different hypervisors?
Yeah.
Different images for the different hypervisors, and the scheduler does it according to image metadata.
Okay.
So that's how to know which hypervisor that it can choose from.
Yeah.
One of the things we kind of contemplating about.
When you do that, I create the VM so we don't lose time. So yeah, the VMs are
The only thing is
built for an hypervisor.
the VMware tools if you need them.
Okay, so I create my first VM on ESX for logical switch 1. Okay, great. Let's create for that same logical switch 1 a VM2 that will be on KVM. So on my logical switch 1, I will have a VM running on ESX. and another VM running on KVM. Okay, and I'll do 2 others for my logical switch 2. Actually, the Wi-Fi is not that bad. And the last one, let's go for it. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. So they should be there, active or almost there. And now if I look at the network topology, that gives you a nice view of my 2 VMs on each. Okay? So that was pretty straightforward. Again, you can automate that, which is pretty cool. So if you're a developer and you want to test things again and again and again, you can create templates of that, and you have your 3-tier application directly there. Okay, so what did I show quickly? If I go back to the presentation, to the slides. Okay, so I've done it with Neutron and our NVP plugin, which has been renamed or will be renamed NSX plugin. So we've done a multi-tier with the logical router. So as I said before, it's available only on Neutron. You don't have that if you use Nova Network. I've been able to do that without changing my physical network. So if I created one tenant, but if I create another one, I don't need to touch my physical network. I don't need to create VLANs or things like this for each network. Why? Quickly, the trick is, so let's say I have multiple tenants with a multi-tier architecture. When, let's say, VM Orange wants to talk to VM Orange, and let's say they're on hypervisor 1 and 2, the traffic is encapsulated. So the physical fabric will not see the IP address of VM1 to VM2, neither the MAC addresses of VM1, VM2, but they will see the IP of hypervisor 1 talking to the IP of hypervisor 2. And I say hypervisor because this hypervisor could be KVM, Zen, ESX, whatever.
Is it a different version of vSwitch on the VMware?
It's what we called, it's not the typical standard vSwitch or distributed vSwitch you have. It's NSX vSwitch. But it's a vSwitch that can be managed by the NSX controller cluster to tell the hypervisor where to go, like we do on KVM or Zen.
Yeah, it's called an update network if you look in the OpenStack code. That's kind of what it refers to.
Okay. And then distributed routing. This one is pretty cool. It's actually the benefits of doing networking in a logical space versus physical world. Let's use examples. Let's say I have my 3-tier architecture, and let's say my VM database wants to talk to my VM app. And let's say the database is on, so it goes that way, and the database is on hypervisor 2. If you have Nova Network, you cannot do that because you cannot do L3. If you have Neutron without our plugin, and database is on hypervisor 2, it goes from hypervisor 2 to your Neutron server back to hypervisor 1. And if VM web wants to talk to VM app, and they are, let's say, on the same hypervisors, it goes from hypervisor 1 to your Neutron server back to your hypervisor 1. And you can quickly see that the Neutron server that is used for everybody will quickly become a choke point because everybody will go through it for the L3 communication. Make sense?
The assumption here is that it's 2 different subnets, right?
Yeah, 2 different subnets, 3-tier architectures. Okay? For any L3, you go through your Neutron box. Make sense? With us, what we have is called distributed router. So this router is actually a little bit everywhere. And when I use the same example, DB talks to app. The VM doesn't know anything. The VM still talks to its default gateway, blah, blah, blah. Transparent to any application, any operating system, any TCP stack, or IP stack. Then it will go directly from hypervisor 2 to hypervisor 1 and will be routed on hypervisor 2. If VM web wants to talk to app, in the logical view, it goes this way, but in the physical view, doesn't leave hypervisor 1. This traffic will not touch the physical fabric. Nova Network doesn't support L3, period.
Right.
So Nova Network out of the picture. Now,
Default gateway and then be rerouted back by the default gateway.
The gateway is run
this logical router for tenant, what is it, orange, will be distributed on all the hypervisors that have a VM orange, okay? And it runs in kernel, so at line rate speed and yeah, okay? Okay, fine. So as you can see, then we remove traffic from the fabric and we optimize that traffic. And that device is a logical router on the NSX gateway and will be used only for the north-south traffic. So that device is still used, but only for the north-south when you go out of the cloud. Okay? So okay, that's something unique. And okay, NVP, or NSX I should say now, is well known for that. The size of the scale, the scale. So scale in two areas. The first one is the size of your cloud. How many VMs, how many routers, how many hypervisors, how many tenants you can do. So we're well known for that. And we're well known also for the, in terms of throughput, how much you get out of your cloud. And so out of each hypervisor, when VMs talk to VMs, even if it's L3, it goes from hypervisor to hypervisors. Each hypervisor can saturate a 210 gig NIC traffic. So each hypervisor can push 20 gig out of itself. And you have obviously more than one hypervisor. So lots of traffic within your cloud and out of your cloud too, because some people will talk to the applications you're hosting. We do more than 10 gig actually per NSX gateway node, and a cluster of gateway is up to 10. So we can do 10 times this. So very high scale in terms of throughput and size of the cloud. Okay, and none of that is available via Nova Network or Neutron. We support those numbers. Actually, the size of the cloud is increased at each release. And if you look at Neutron or Nova Network, there is actually no number. Everybody will tell you it doesn't scale. But everybody can tell you up to what number, which is pretty low, but I'll let you figure out yourself. But anyway, anybody can support you to a number where we support to those numbers.
There's also an extension Neutron which does quality of service, where the NVP actually has kind of traffic shaping.
Yeah, there are some other features I'll talk. I just mentioned some here. Now, a demo 2, I have 4 demos, but because we have only 30 minutes, I'll do 2 out of the 4, but I'll tell you what I could show you too. Demo 2 I will show you because that's an important one, is actually everybody is using OpenStack a little bit or for real in production, or you're new to that?
I have a question about
yeah.
performance for a second.
Yeah.
What's the CPU utilization on each of the nodes that you need in memory?
Yeah, so actually this, do you know OpenV switch or not? Okay, so I'll go high level. So when the traffic goes from a hypervisor to a hypervisor, the traffic is encapsulated, remember? Actually, it's somewhere here.
The OpenV switch
And
is a module which sits inside Linux, which does the implementation of OpenFlow. So you'll have the flow table rules which are created.
So yeah, exactly, and runs in kernel. So the hypervisor, when there is traffic from the VM, the hypervisor has to look at the flow table to know where to send it to. Okay, so it's just finding an entry in a table, which is pretty easy. I mean, everybody does that. This problem has been solved by firewalls, by load balancers. So that's fast. Then there is the encapsulation piece, and this one is important. We use with our plugin STT. I don't care much about STT, but exactly. The encapsulation is not done by the CPU of the hypervisor. The encapsulation is done by the NIC. So I can saturate those 210 gig NICs without touching the CPU. So actually, I can do that with light. I say light because I won't say numbers. But light impact on the CPU, which means your hypervisor is pretty much free to do the compute of the VMs. And that's what you have hypervisors for. Okay? So that's unique with us. Actually, STT is not something proprietary. It's open sourced. There is a draft. Everybody could use it. We are the only one that's using it. I don't know why, but everybody could use it. And this helps you to reach those numbers. If you use GRE, you'll go to 2 gig and maybe 3 gig if you're lucky. Okay? Okay, so demo 2. That's actually a very big thing, and that's why customers are selecting us. At the end of the day, if you want to use OpenStack in production and not for fun in your lab, you need tools to manage it and to maintain it. Or you're part of a university and you just do that for fun, and that's another story. But if you want to use that in production, you need tools to manage it. And OpenStack is lacking tools today. And so we offer that, at least on the networking piece. I talk only about that piece. And we help people to use OpenStack in production with the ability to maintain, monitor, troubleshoot that. And I'll show you some pretty cool tools. They are named here, and let's go directly to the demo. So I created, 5 minutes? Okay, so I speed up. I'll definitely not do the last 2 demos. So I created this in front of you, and let's say you have hundreds, thousands of tenants like this. Okay, they have their stuff, and one of them call you and say, hey, my VM1 cannot talk to my VM2. What do you do? So you can go on this interface UI, and this will give you a quick visibility of where are things and tools to troubleshoot. So I'm doing a filter on tenant A. So I see, okay, the Wi-Fi is not that great. I see only tenant A stuff. And let's say these the customers call you because those 2 VMs are not working fine. So you select those 2 VMs, and this tool will give you, faster than that because you have a better Wi-Fi, will tell you where those VMs are and if the communication is working fine. So if we look at that now, it will tell you that VM1 is on ESXi2, VM2 is on KVM1, because maybe you have some tools that do dynamic move of the VMs to do the best allocation things. And it tells you for the physical network will see not the IP of VM1 to VM2, but we'll see the IP of ESXi2 going to KVM1, and that's what the physical fabric will see. And also on each of the communication here, of the tunnels, I could say, we do health check every 300 milliseconds. You don't have to remember that. But we test, or each hypervisor itself will test if the communication is fine, and you can see it's green, so it's fine, and everything should be fine. Now you can go deeper. You can, instead of asking the customer, hey, give me your root password, and I log on your VM, and I do a ping or a trace, whatever, you can directly here send or ask the hypervisor to send the ping with exactly the characteristics of the VM. So you can yourself test a ping from the VM to the VM without asking your tenant to give you that access. What else can I show you? You can go on the logical switch port of the VM, and you can see, or you should see fast if you have better Wi-Fi, the statistics, okay, different things. But you can test more than a ping. You can create yourself the packet from that logical switch port, which means that VM, to something else, and test it's well received on the other side. If you have vMotion, so I'm running out of time, so I won't show you vMotion. Or let's do it quick. Well, I have only 4 minutes. You'll just trust me. If you do vMotion, the VM will move from a hypervisor to another hypervisor. This tool will know immediately. And first of all, it works. When you do vMotion communication, live vMotion communication still works. The tenant doesn't notice anything. Of course, your hypervisor must support live vMotion. So if you have ESX from VMware, definitely it does. If you have something else, I don't know. But the network will still work, and the tool will still give you the latest information in real time. What else? Oh, something else. And I'll finish with this tool. There are some other tools. On physical, are you network guys or not? Yeah, so you know ER-span from Cisco if you're a Cisco addict, or whatever if you're a Juniper addict or Arista addict. So if you want to see the traffic from a VM, you have to go on your physical switch and do a R-span, to a port mirroring of that physical switch port. And if the VM moves, too bad, because now the port mirroring you have to do is on that physical port. Now you think about cloud. So what you do is an R-span of the logical switch port. I don't say where it is. I just say that logical switch port where you have the VM, mirror that to your PC. And if the VM moves, the VM is still connected to the same logical switch port. Now it's on another hypervisor, maybe from ESX to KVM, or KVM to ESX, I should say, because I have a VMware t-shirt. But the logical switch port is the same. So your configuration you did will work, and you will still receive the port mirroring from that VM. Make sense? So many other tools, some tools, and I'm really running out of time, I'll be kicked out. So many tools that helps you to use that in production. If you know OpenStack, if you know Nova Network, if you know Neutron without our plugin, you don't have those tools, and it's much more complex to really go to production. Okay. So I have some other demos, so I skip that. I can do some customers, especially in the enterprise, not in the cloud. They want logical to physical. They have some VMs, and they need to talk to physical server in the same subnet. I do support that. We can show you that. We can talk about that. Some advanced network services, load balancing, firewalling.
You support it through the Nicira gateway?
Yeah, yeah, L2 gateway in that case. Firewalling, load balancing, static routing, QoS. It's not in the list, I should. HA, the session before talked about HA. If you know OpenStack, it can be challenging or limited, actually, what you can do in terms of HA, at least today. Everything is built in terms of HA. And some customers, real customers in enterprise, not a lab, some guy in a lab. So you've heard about, in other sessions, about PayPal, about eBay, about Rackspace. So they are running our solution for the network piece.
They are running NSX, they are not running ESX.
They are running, correct. And
Not Rackspace,
so,
PayPal.
correct. All of them run the, you remember at the introduction, there are multiple blue boxes. So VMware, you can choose what you want. You don't have to choose everything. It's a framework, OpenStack. It's not a product. So they selected some blocks from VMware, and all of them, that's the NSX. Some actually are using a mix of KVM and ESX, and some, and you know them, you know the one, is using Zen. Okay? But I agree with the statistics we've seen this morning. Most of the people today, it's KVM. Like 2 years ago, it was more Zen. Why? I don't know. Now, something that... No, I didn't say it. Now, if you remember stats, not from me, from this morning, like 50% of people want their cloud running on VMware. That was stats we've seen this morning. And they want VMware for their hypervisor. It was not available in OpenStack before, or it was an early...
It's available properly working in Havana.
It's the first release where it's fully supported. The release before, it was just for you for fun, to test. Now OpenStack supports VMware, so those 50% customers that want OpenStack with VMware can start using it. But those are production, so before they had no even if they wanted, they couldn't. Okay. Last thing, if you want to play with it a little bit, you have a hands-on lab. You can go there.
Kind of one thing the hands-on lab does is we created an appliance which has OpenStack fully installed, and all it is just a matter of connecting your backend VC to that appliance. And then you can run through the whole setup, and you can do volume attachment and all of the OpenStack different layers. And
that's great. And we're also hiring. I mean, I come from Nicira. I was based in the US. I moved just after the acquisition to Europe. I was the first one. We are now in Europe, I guess 9 or 10, whatever. So in 1 year, we just 10 tuple. I don't know if it's English or not. And we're still hiring, so feel free, if you're good, to contact those guys. And Q&A. We had some questions before. I don't know if you used.
Let's have Q&A during the drink and coffee break.
Perfect. So we're just on time.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.